Hello students, in this video I am going to discuss the questions from the subjects Structural Analysis and Theory of Structures which were asked in MES 2019. Question number 1. Which of the following is true in the following figure? Now we can see that it is a cantilever beam with left end A is fixed and right end B is free end, and a point load W is acting at a distance L dash from the left end. The span of the cantilever is L. If we read the options, then we can see that deflection at C, deflection at B, theta C all are given over there, and we will have to choose the correct option. Now in order to go for the correct option, I have drawn the figure once again. So it is that cantilever. Now as this distance is L dash, the remaining is going to be L minus L dash. If we observe the bending pattern of this cantilever beam, it is going to bend in this manner. It will bend till the load position, that is this load W, and thereafter it is going to remain straight. So if theta B is the slope at B, theta B is the slope at B, I have shown this vertical displacement is the displacement of this point B at which the load W is acting, and delta C, let it be the deflection at C. Now if I want to get delta C can be obtained as, now this vertical displacement is delta B, so till this point it will be delta B, so delta B plus this vertical distance I will have to get. So delta C can be obtained as delta C is equal to delta B plus this vertical distance. So I want to get this vertical distance. Now I know that bending pattern is like this. So the beam will bend till this point B. Thereafter it is going to remain straight. So if I deal with this triangle, I can get the vertical side of this triangle, which is the required side. So tan of theta B, I can take tangent ratio. Tan of theta B is equal to, if this vertical distance is y, so it will be y divided by the horizontal side, that is L minus L dash. L minus L dash, and therefore y can be written as y is equal to this L minus L dash. I am taking it to the left hand side. Now theta B will be very small angle, and for small values of angle theta, tan of theta can be written as theta, and therefore it will be L minus L dash into theta B. So delta C can be given as delta B plus y, and y its value is L minus L dash into theta B. So it will be theta B into L minus L dash. So this is the deflection at C. Now if we observe the first option, it is deflection at C is equal to deflection at B, that is delta B plus theta B into L minus L dash. So first option is correct. But again, always whenever you want to choose the correct option, read the remaining options also. Now here the third option will also be correct, because deflection at C is equal to deflection at B. So delta C is equal to delta B plus, instead of theta B they have written theta C. So theta B and theta C are going to remain same over here, because this part of the cantilever beam, that is BC, will remain straight. So whatever is the value of theta B, same is the value of theta C, and that is why it will be, or delta C is equal to delta B plus theta C into L minus L dash is also correct. As these two are correct, then the correct option will be both 1 and 3. So option 4 is the correct option for question number 24. Question number 2. A statically indeterminate structure is the one which, and the 4 options are given. Now in order to answer this question, we should know what is a statically indeterminate structure. Statically indeterminate structure is that structure which cannot be analyzed completely with the help of equations of equilibrium alone, and we need to use the compatibility equations also, and that is why the correct option for this question is, it is a structure which can be analyzed using equations of statics, that is equilibrium equations and compatibility equations. Option 3 is the correct option. Question number 3. In the propped cantilever as shown in figure, the value of propped reaction R will be. So it is that propped cantilever, left end A is fixed, let the right end B is propped by means of this reaction R and a moment M is equal to 30 kilonewton meter is applied. To get the correct option, what I am doing is that I am just considering two cases. In the first case, I have shown only this moment at the free end, and in the second case, I have shown the reaction of that prop at the free end. Now, as the cantilever is supported at the free end by means of this reaction, the condition which is to be used is that the resultant deflection at this free end is going to be 0. So what I will do is that I will get the deflection at the free end due to moment, and I will get the deflection at the same end, and that is free end, due to the reaction, and the algebraic sum of these deflections must be equal to 0. So delta B, that is deflection at free end, is going to be ml square divided by 2ei. Means if a cantilever is there and if a moment m is applied at the free end, then the deflection at free end is given by this formula. Now value of m is given, which is 30 kilonewton. If I substitute it over here, it becomes 30 L square divided by 2ei. In the second case, the cantilever is subjected to a point load at the free end. Now the deflection at the free end due to this point load will be WL cube divided by 3ei, and which will be equal to, W is nothing but R, so R into L cube divided by 3ei. Now these two deflections must cancel each other, and that is why I will have to equate these two deflections, and therefore 30 times L square divided by 2ei is equal to RL cube divided by 3ei. ei will get cancelled out, L square will get cancelled out, and you will get the final value of R is equal to 9 kilonewton. So the correct option is option 1. Question number 4. A fixed beam AB of length L having constant flexural rigidity EI carries two loads P at its third point C and D as shown in figure. The fixed beam is shown, the two loads are as shown, and it is asked to get the maximum bending moment. Means only the magnitude of the bending moment, whichever is maximum, that is to be obtained. Now and they have given, if we observe the options, there are 4 points A, B, C and D. So you will have to calculate the bending moments at these positions, and we will have to check which one is numerically maximum. Now in order to know the resulting or final bending moments at these points, that is A, B, C and D, what I am doing is that I am using the usual procedure for fixed beams. Now in case of fixed beams, what is considered is that every fixed beam is nothing but a simply supported beam along with the end moments. So initially consider the beam as simply supported and draw the simple BMD. So simple BMD can be drawn like this. So consider both of these supports as simple supports. Two loads are there. The loads are acting symmetrically. It means that reactions at A and B both are going to be equal, and as such RA will be P and RB will also be P, and if I take moment over here, that will be P into L by 3. So PL by 3, PL by 3, and this will be the simple BMD. Once we draw the simple BMD, then we will have to draw or calculate the fixed end moments. So fixed end moments at A and B. Now in order to get the fixed end moments, I am considering the beam separately, or I am splitting the beam into two types. First, the fixed beam AB, second fixed beam AB, and here I am showing only one force, and in the second case I am showing the second force. So addition of these two cases will be the given case. In this case, let the moment produced because of this load P alone at A is MA1, and moment produced because of this load P at B is MB1. So I am getting MA1, MB1 for this load, and then I will get MA2, MB2 because of this load, and addition of MA1 and MA2 will give us MA. MA1 in this case can be obtained by using the formula WAB square upon L square, which is known to us. So W is P, A is L by 3, B square is 2L by 3 square divided by L square, and if I simplify it, I am getting MA1 as 4PL divided by 27. Similarly, MB1 can be obtained, means the fixed end moment at B due to this first load P, and which will be 2PL upon 27. Now, because of the second load, the values will get interchanged. MA2 will be 2PL upon 27. MB2 will be 4PL upon 27. If I add MA1 and MA2, I am getting MA as 2PL divided by 9, and the value of MB will also be same. And if I draw the fixed BMD, it will be like this. It is the fixed BMD. So it will be negative, it will be positive, and it is negative, and this value is 2PL divided by 9. This is also 2PL divided by 9. Now the maximum, numerically maximum bending moment is asked. So at A it is 2PL by 9, at B it is 2PL by 9, but for the span in between C and D, at every point the bending moment is having same value, and that value will be this one, because we have superimposed the fixed BMD over the simple BMD. So this part will get cancelled out, and only this value will be there. So which will be equal to, this vertical ordinate will be equal to, initially it is PL by 3 minus 2PL by 9, and which will be equal to, 9 is the LCM, 3PL minus 2PL, so it will be PL by 9. So maximum sagging bending moment is PL by 9, whereas maximum hogging bending moment is 2PL by 9. So maximum, numerically maximum bending moment occurs at A as well as B, and that is why the correct option is option 3. Question number 6. The moment required to rotate the near end of a prismatic beam through a unit angle without translation, the far end being simply supported, is given by. Now if the far end is fixed, the moment required to rotate the near end of a prismatic beam is 4EI upon L, whereas if the far end is hinged or simply supported, then the moment required to rotate the near end is equal to 3EI upon L, and that is why the correct option is option 1. Next question. A two-hinged semicircular arch of radius capital R carries a concentrated load W at the crown. Assuming uniform flexural rigidity, the horizontal thrust at each support will be. Now it is a standard case of loading in case of a two-hinged semicircular arch, and the formula is well known. It is given by, or horizontal thrust H is given by, H is equal to W upon pi, and that is why the correct option is option 2. Next question. A two-span continuous beam ABC is as shown in figure below. The distribution factors at joint B are. So they have shown a continuous beam. This is the intermediate support, and this is the joint B. So in order to get the distribution factor, I have prepared a table. Joint B, then the members. So at this joint B, there are two members which are meeting, BA and BC. So BA and BC. Stiffnesses, then total stiffness and distribution factor. Stiffness of the member BA at joint B is 4EI upon L, because the far end is fixed, 4EI upon L. But I, here for BA it is 3I, so I have substituted this value of I as 3I, so 4E into 3I divided by 6, which is 2EI. Similarly for BC, again the far end is fixed, so the formula is 4EI upon L. Formula is 4EI upon L, and value of I is 2I, so 4E into 2I divided by 4, it is 2EI again. So the total stiffness at joint B is addition of these two, which is 4EI, and once we get the total stiffness, we can get the distribution factor. Stiffness of BA divided by total stiffness is the distribution factor for BA, which is 0.5. So 2EI divided by 4EI is 0.5. For BC also, 2EI divided by 4EI is equal to 0.5. So correct option is option 3. Next question. The deflection at free end of a cantilever of rectangular cross section due to certain loading is 0.8 centimeter. If the depth of the section is doubled, keeping the width same, then the deflection at the free end due to the same loading will be. Now here the cross section of the beam is rectangular, and in the first case, and in the second case the depth of the beam has been increased, and they have asked us to get the deflection in the second case. Now in order to go for the solution, before going for the solution, I want to discuss this case. Suppose it is a cantilever with a loading at the free end. It is also a cantilever which is subjected to an UDL. In this case, the deflection at B is given as WL cube divided by 3 EI. In this case, the deflection at B is given as WL raised to 4 upon 8 EI. Now, if we observe these formulae, we can see that W is the load, L is the span of the beam, E is the property of the material, whereas this term I is the property of the cross section of the beam. And here they have changed the cross section. So we will have to pay our attention towards this term I. Rest of the terms, that is load W, the span of the beam, the material of the beam has been kept constant. It means that this entire term is constant. This entire term is constant, isn't it? So it means that deflection at the free end in case of a cantilever beam, if the loading, the span and the material is kept constant, then delta B, that is the deflection at free end, is inversely proportional to the moment of inertia. So instead of this entire term, I am writing it as K. So delta B is equal to K divided by I. Now I am considering two cases. In case 1, depth is D. In case 2, the depth is 2D. So delta B, that is deflection at free end, will be K divided by I1 over here. Deflection at free end, in this case, it will be K divided by I2. In the first case, deflection is given as 0.8. So 0.8 is equal to K divided by I1. So K can be written as 0.8 into BD cube divided by 12 because it is a rectangular section. Now, in the second case, delta B is K divided by I2. I am substituting the value of K from here in over here. So 0.8 into BD cube divided by 12. I2, that is moment of inertia in second case. It will be into D cube, but D is 2D over here. So 2D cube divided by 12. Now B into D cube divided by 12. 2 cube is there. 2 cube is 8. So 0.8 divided by 8 is 0.1. And that is why the correct option is option 1. Next question, what is the force in member AB of the pin jointed frame as shown below? Now the frame is shown and it is asked to get the force in member AB. Now we can use the method of sections also, but here I am using a simple trick. Now this is the member AB. Always when you want to go for the force in any member, check the ends of that member. Now at end B there are two more members are meeting, but at end A there is only one member which is meeting to this AB and it is perpendicular to AB. That is an important point. So this member DA and AB are perpendicular to one another and there is no load over here. So if there is any force in AB, then it will never be balanced by this one. And if there is any force in AD, it will never be balanced by AB. And that is why AB should be a zero force member. The option 4 is the correct option. Next question, a cantilever beam AB of span L is subjected to a moment M at the free end as shown in figure. What is the slope and deflection at free end B? Consider same cross section and material, that is EI is same. A cantilever beam is shown, a moment is applied at the free end, so it is a standard case. And for this type of loading, the slope at the free end is given by ml upon EI, whereas the deflection is given as ml square upon 2 EI, and that is why the correct option is option 1. Next question, influence line diagram for bending moment at P for cantilever as shown. Now the figure is shown, the position of P is also shown. Now whenever it is a question of drawing the influence line diagram, we consider a unit load, and unit load moves from one end to the other end. Now I am considering two cases. Let the load starts from A, and this unit load, it is starting from A and it is moving towards the right end B. So it is the end B. I am considering two cases. This unit load can have two positions with respect to this point P. It can be to the left of P or it can be to the right of P. So let it is the case, this case is the first case in which I am considering that the load is to the left of P. Now when the load is to the left of P, I will not be dealing with the left part, I will be dealing with the right part. So when the load is in left part, the moment at P will be 0 because there is no load to the right. And in case 2, so till the motion of this unit load from A to P, it will not have any moment about P. So that is why from A to P it will be a straight line. Whereas thereafter, when the load moves to the right part, when the load moves to the right part, as it is moving away from P, as it is moving away from P, its movement about P will go on increasing, and that is why it is increasing as the distance of this unit load is increasing from position P. So when the load is to the right of P only, then the moment will be produced at P, and this moment is increasing with the increase in distance, and this can be shown by means of this inclined line, and that is why the correct option is option 1 for this question. Next question, displacement coordinates for the beam as shown in figure, the flexibility matrix is given by. So it is a cantilever beam, and for this cantilever beam they have shown the displacement coordinates 1 and 2. So one is related to the vertical displacement at this free end, and another is related to the rotation at the free end. Now, in order to get the flexibility matrix over here, what I am doing is that I am considering these two standard cases. Now, in these two standard cases, I have shown a unit load at free end and a rotation at the free end over here. So, there are these two separate cases. When a unit load is acting at the free end, the slope and deflection at the free end are respectively given as theta b is equal to WL square divided by 2 EI, where W is nothing but equal to P. Delta B is given as WL cube divided by 3 EI. So which is instead of W we can write P over here. If a moment is acting, what happens is that theta B is equal to ML upon EI and delta B is equal to ML square divided by 2 EI. These are the displacements which are happening at this free end. Displacement means rotation and the vertical deflection. Now, flexibility matrix is given as F is equal to F11, F12, F21 and F22. F11 means displacement at 1 when the action is at 1. F12 displacement at 1, action at 2. F21 displacement at 2, action at 1. F22 displacement at 2, action at 2. Now using this basic knowledge we can develop the flexibility matrix for this beam. So here flexibility matrix is equal to, I am going to use the this matrix over here to develop the flexibility matrix for the given beam. F11 is the displacement at 1 when the action is at 1. Now coordinate number 1 is this along this direction. So along this direction the action means this action which is P. So P is the action, but again action is the unit load. So unit load, when I apply it over here, the slope at B will be L square divided by 2 EI and deflection at B will be L cube divided by 3I because W that is P is equal to 1. Now when unit action is applied over here, the slope at B is L upon EI and deflection at B is L square upon 2 EI. Now let us develop the matrix. F11 means the action is at 1. So action is along this direction. Action at 1 and displacement at 1, action at 1. So action at 1, what is the displacement at 1? Displacement at 1 means the vertical deflection at this coordinate or along this coordinate, which is WL cube divided by 3I. But W is 1 and that is why it will be L cube divided by 3I. This is F11. Now let us write F12. Displacement at 1 when the action is at 2. So action is at 2 and displacement at 1. Displacement at 1 means along this vertical direction. Action is along the direction of this rotation. Displacement at 1 will be this displacement ml square divided by 2 EI. M is 1 and that is why I have written it as L square divided by 2 EI. Now let us go for this term F21. F21 means displacement at 2, action at 1. So action at 1 means action along this direction. So this is the action. Action at 2, displacement at 1 means this value, which is WL square divided by 2EI. So I am writing it as L square divided by 2EI. And the last one, F22, means action is at 2, and we'll have to get the displacement at 2 again. So which is theta B ML divided by EI. So this is the flexibility matrix. And then I am bringing out EI as common. 1 upon EI, L cube is span is 4 meters, so 4 cube is 64 divided by 3, then 4 square divided by 2, 4 square is 16 divided by 2, 8, it is also 8, and this one is 4, and that is why the correct option for this question is option number 3. Next question, displacement coordinates for the beam are as shown in figure. The stiffness matrix is given by. Now we just have seen the flexibility matrix. Stiffness is the converse of flexibility. Stiffness matrix is given as K11, K12, K21, K22. K11 is the force produced at coordinate number 1 due to unit displacement at coordinate number 1. K12 is the force produced at coordinate 1 due to a unit displacement at coordinate 2, and so on. Now here, in order to get the stiffness matrix, what I am doing is that I have considered the beam 2 times. As there are two coordinates which are shown, one and both the coordinates or both the directions are along the rotations at these positions. Now here, what I am doing is that this is coordinate number 1. So at 1 I am giving a unit displacement, unit angular displacement. So let it be 1 or unit displacement. Now because this unit displacement, other supports have been locked. So if a unit displacement is given over here, some force will be developed at the coordinate 1 as well as at coordinate 2 also. Coordinate 2 is over here, coordinate number 1 is over here. Now the force developed at 1 can be given as K11 is equal to, when I want to produce unit displacement, as the far ends are fixed, the stiffness is given as 4EI upon L. So it will be 4E for this span to the left of this first coordinate. For the left span, which is 4 meter, and its moment of inertia is 2I. So 4EI upon L. I am using 4E into 2I divided by 4. L is 4. Plus for the right span, means this span, the span is 4 and I is only I. So it is 4EI upon L. The total stiffness is 3EI. Means to produce unit angular displacement or rotation over here, the stiffness or the resistance is 3EI. Similarly, K21 is the force produced at coordinate number 2 due to a unit displacement at coordinate number 1. So there will be some moment developed at this position, and this moment will be half the moment produced for this span in between 1 and 2. So half the moment means this moment. Now this moment is 4 by 4, that is EI. Half the moment will be carried over, and that is why it will be 0.5 EI. Similarly, in the second case, what I am doing is that I am locking all the rest of the supports, and I am giving a unit rotational displacement at position or coordinate number 2. So when I give a unit displacement at this position, I can see that the total force or total moment which is required to produce unit displacement at this support will be 4EI upon L for left part plus 4EI upon L for the right part at this position. So it is 4EI divided by 4 plus 4E into 2I divided by 8, it is 2EI. So 2EI is the value of K22, whereas K12 is the force or moment produced at the coordinate number 1, means this moment when a unit displacement is given at 2, and it will be exactly half of this value, which is EI divided by 2, because half the moment gets carried over, and this is how the stiffness matrix can be produced. EI can be brought outside, and the correct option is option number 4. Next, a parabolic 3-hinge arch ABC is supporting uniformly distributed load of 500 Newton per meter. 500 Newton per meter means 0.5 kilonewton per meter over its entire span of 100 meters. The center point is B, is vertically 25-meter high from supports A and C. So this sentence clears that the arch is parabolic, but it is symmetric also, because the distance of point B from A and C both is given as 25-meter. Now in this case we will have to draw the FBD of the arch and FBD of half the arch. Means we will have to cut the arch at the crown and consider FBD of half arch. So considering FBD of arch, the reactions at supports have been shown VA and VC. H is the horizontal thrust. Using summation Fy is equal to 0, Va plus Vc is equal to 50 kilonewton. Take moments about A, equate it to 0. The equation will be 0.5 into 100 into 50. That is the point load of this UDL and its moment, minus RC into 100. So RC, that is VC. Actually it is VC. VC is 25 kilonewton. Va is 25 kilonewton. When we consider FBD of half the arch, it will be like this. Take moments about this point B. Taking moments about B, Va into perpendicular distance, that is 50, minus H into 25, and minus the moment of this UDL, H is 25, and that is why the correct option is option 4. Next question, the stiffness matrix of a beam is given, and it is asked to find the flexibility matrix. Now the product of flexibility and stiffness matrix is an identity matrix, which means flexibility matrix and stiffness matrix are inverse of each other, and that is why product of flexibility matrix and the stiffness matrix is identity matrix. So stiffness matrix is nothing but the inverse of flexibility matrix. Now you should know that if A is the matrix A, B, C, D, then A inverse means inverse of this can be obtained as 1 upon determinant A into this matrix. Now this matrix is nothing but the principal diagonal members are getting interchanged. So dA and negative sign is there for the another diagonal. So this is how the inverse matrix can be obtained. So I want to get the stiffness matrix, which is nothing but the inverse of flexibility matrix. So 1 upon determinant A, already K is there, so it will go to the denominator. And determinant of this is 12 into 5 is 60, minus 4 into 4 is 16. So and matrix it can be written as 5 will take the position of 12 and 12 will go to the position of 5 and negative signs will be there. So this is the stiffness matrix. 60 minus 16 is 44. So 1 upon 44K, 5 minus 4 minus 4, 12. So option 4 is the correct option. Question, for a simply supported beam AB of span L with point load W at point C, Z meter from left support, ILD for bending moment at C is. Now the given beam is like this. It is the beam AB and load W is there at a distance Z from left end. Now an ILD is to be drawn. So whenever an ILD is to be drawn for any given beam, we replace the loading or we remove the loading and we consider a unit load. So unit load is 1 over here. So this is the unit load. Let it be at a distance Z. Z is the variable. It can change. So if this distance is Z from the left end, then the remaining distance is going to be L minus Z. And the bending moment at this section will be WAB upon L. A is Z, B is L minus Z, or W is 1. So it will be Z into L minus Z divided by L. This is the correct option. So the option which is matching with this one is Z into L minus Z upon L. So option 2 is the correct option. Next question, the cable and arch are subjected to axial forces respectively as. Now we know that in case of arches, the axial thrust is there, means the axial compression is there. Whereas in case of cable can never sustain compression, it only takes tension, and that is why cables always carry tensile force, whereas the arches are subjected to compressive forces. Option 1 is the correct option. Next question, degree of static indeterminacy for the frame shown below is. Now here it is asked to get the degree of static indeterminacy. Let us get DSE first. DSE is equal to R minus 3, because it is a 2D frame. R is equal to, now there are 3 supports. So 2 plus 1 plus 1, 4 reactions are there. 4 minus 3, that is equal to 1. Then DSI. Now rigid joints are seen over there. So it is a rigid joint. So In such cases, we will have to check the number of closed cells. So here there are two number of closed cells. So 3 times C minus number of available equilibrium equations which are there because of the internal hinges. So two members are meeting over here, one equilibrium equation over there. So 3 times C, 3C minus 2, that is equal to 3 times 2 closed cells. So 3 into 2 is 6 minus 2, that is 4. So DSI is 4, DSE is 1, the total degree of static indeterminacy is 5. Option 4 is the correct option. Now next question, for the continuous beam shown in figure, the ILD for reaction at D is. Now the beam is shown, there is an internal hinge, so it is a case of compound beam. Now to understand the ILD for compound beams completely, I will suggest you to go through the playlist which I have uploaded for ILD, that is influence line diagrams, and you should especially go through video number 3, that is ILD part 3 and 4, to understand the ILD for continuous beams, compound beams completely. So I suggest you that, and once you go through that video, you will come to know that the correct ILD for reaction at D is option number 2. Now next question, a cable of span 120 meter and deep 10 meter carries a load of 6 kilonewton per meter of horizontal span. The maximum tension in the cable is. Now whenever the question is asked regarding the maximum tension in a suspension cable, the maximum tension always happens at the supports, and the maximum tension will be either RA or RB. So we'll have to get RA or RB, but here RA and RB both are going to be same because of symmetry. So either you get the value of RA or the value of RB. To know the value of RA, we'll have to get H and VA. So H, that is horizontal component of reaction at the support, is given by PL square divided by 8 times D. PL square divided by 8D, where D is the deep of the cable, which is 10 meter over here, and P is the UDL. So substituting all these values, we can get the value of H. P is 6 kilonewton per meter into L square is 120 square divided by 8 times deep is 10, and if we solve it further, we can get the value as 1080 kilonewton. Now then VA and VB can be obtained by using summation Fy is equal to 0. So VA is nothing but the total load, that is 120 into 6 divided by 2, because it will be half of the total load due to symmetry, and this is equal to 360 kilonewton. And then the reaction at A, which is nothing but the maximum tension T max, will be equal to root of 1080 square plus 360 square, and it works out to be 1138.42 kilonewton, and that is why the option 2 is the correct option.